if you're fed up with weeks passing by where you say you're going to do the thing, but you end up overwhelmed not doing it, you didn't create the content, you didn't sell the product, you didn't take the steps forward, which you know that will set your family free, I'm going to show you in today's video how to create the perfect week for yourself, where it's productive, profitable, and pleasurable. And I'm going to show you the 5 things that you need in order to succeed. I make it a habit to tell people that my success in business comes from the Bible and biblical principles that I find in the Bible, which allow my business to boom. And I'm going to show you that again in today's video, because when we think about the perfect week, I was thinking about this again recently, right? The first page in the Bible, Genesis chapter 1, is in many respects what I would call like the perfect week. And it has more than 5, but I'm going to share 5 of them in today's video, which you can use in order to make your weeks going forward productive, profitable, and pleasurable all at the same time. So if we think about like a week, right? We think about, let's just do it like this. We have Sunday, we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? We have Friday, and then we have Saturday. All right, cool. All right. So we think about it like this, and let's do it like this, and then let's just do it like this, right? If you want to have a week which is productive, profitable, and pleasurable, then you need to first and foremost think about the mission, right? When you think about Genesis chapter 1, there is first and foremost a clear mission about what is going to happen during the week. God's mission, the aim, the goal, the desire that God has in that first week of creation is to create the heavens and the earth. So most people don't mess up here. Most people have a goal or a desire or a dream, or like they envision something for their week, right? They obviously most likely desire to be pleasurable, it's fun. They desire to be profitable, it produces returns for them. And they also obviously desire to be productive, right? Because obviously if it's productive, that means they obviously got stuff done. So a mission, if you don't have a mission, that already is sabotaging you from having the perfect week, which meets all 3 P's which I've spoken about, and I'll continue to speak about: productive, profitable, and pleasurable. Now, what's also powerful about this is when I think about my week and what I want to do in the week, right? What did God do for his week? In God's first week of creation, right? The first week of human existence, what did he do? If God was successful, and this is what we're calling the perfect week, right? I want to model, is my thinking, what God did in his week. Now, obviously, I'm not creating the heavens and the earth and the sun and all those different kind of things. God doesn't desire me to do that anyway, right? But let's just take a step back and think about specifically, what was God doing? Well, we can simplify this down into basically 2 things. And I'll put it like this, right? On the first day, the second day, the third day, the fourth day, the 5th day, and the 6th day, God basically did the same thing. If we remove ourselves from the intricacies, like, oh, God creating the light, or God separating the morning and the day and the evening, and God creating animals, and God creating humans, and like God's doing all these kind of things, but what is the common denominator? God was creating. He was creating, and he did that for 6 days in the week. And the 7th day, when you now get to Genesis chapter 2, it says he rested, or he ceased, he stopped working. So when I think about my perfect week, a week which is productive, profitable, and pleasurable, I say to myself, okay, cool. In order for me to hit those 3 markers, those 3 points, I need to make sure my framework is, if I'm going to do what God is doing, I'm going to create for 6 days, and I'm going to rest or stop working for 1 day. And it's mind-boggling to me when I think about this. The more and more I think about this, like, imagine, and we'll talk about this more as the video goes on, right? Point number 2, create for 6 days and stop working, rest for 1. The powerful thing about this is God didn't need to rest, but God gives us this principle to help us understand that, okay, cool, you are not supposed to just work, and work. You are supposed to take a break. You are supposed to stop from working. I can't tell you how many profitable ideas, good things that come out of me taking a day of rest, of saying, okay, cool, I've been working, I'm taking a day off, right? There's people out there that will tell you, okay, cool, like, go hard, hustle 7 days a week, 24/7, blah, blah, etc. Right? I'm not saying you can't get results that way, but I promise you, the best results you will ever get is based on this framework. And why? Because this was the most productive, profitable, and probably pleasurable week ever. So if I want similar sorts of results, then I'm going to do what that person did in my own way, right? And obviously, like I said previously, God doesn't want us to create the sun and the moon and the stars and the animals and all this different kind of stuff. But God does desire us to create things that we are supposed to be creating. Now I know you might be thinking, well, Israel, I'm struggling to create one day already. How am I going to be creating every single day? And I'm going to answer that question later on in the video, because it's an important question, but also one which is broken down in Genesis chapter 1 when you actually pay close attention. So think about that. Now, the third thing I want to talk about, right, is you may have noticed this already. Maybe you was even thinking about this at the time. And it's this part right here, right? Sunday, right? The day 1. And in order, I was thinking about this, I'm going to read this from my book, right? Because I talk about something similar in my book, right? And I'm just going to read a little bit. This is on page 27, right? This is under, this is start the week right. And I want to read just 2 things. I say, the first day of the week, according to God's week, is Sunday, or would you say day 1, right? The first day is the better way to say it. And I would strongly advise you to start your week mentally and physically on this day. Spiritual is more important than physical, and that is why when we do not know spiritually what day it is, it affects our physical. And I continue going on, right? But this is so significant because this is why it's set up. I've drawn it in this way for you to see, because in order for you to get things right, it's better for you to align, basically what we're doing today, align with the way God sees things. Because many people, especially in the West, we think about the week starting on a Monday, right? And then we work 5 days, etc. But if you think about it from God's perspective, right, day 1 was this day right here. And the more you align with God, the better results you will actually get. So this is why on Sundays, I don't look at Sunday as a day of rest. I could make Sunday a day of rest if I really wanted to, but even if I did do that, I would be doing it from a perspective of knowing, okay, cool, this is the first day of the week on God's calendar, in God's timeline. Not just like, oh yeah, I'm resting because this is the last day of the week. And act like even Saturday, it doesn't mean like this currently right now isn't our day of rest as a family, right? So I'm not saying rest Saturday and along those lines, right? Because the New Testament obviously has opened it up to say, you know what, any day you can decide to rest, etc. But you should take one day to rest because that will give you the best results. So start the week right. This is so significant. The third thing I need you to understand, if you want to have a week which is productive, profitable, and pleasurable, start the week right. The more you start the week in the wrong way, the more likely you are to get the wrong results. The more you start the week in the right way, the more likely you are to get the right results. So think about it from this perspective. Create 6 days, rest 1, and just think about it. This is more so mental and spiritual, because I need you to understand the physical world that we live in is governed by the spiritual world, the invisible world where God resides, etc. So when I think about stuff like that, it's like, imagine playing like a board game. What's happening on the board game is being dictated by the people playing, which are outside of the board game. That's what it's like when you start following or seeing things from a spiritual lens instead of looking at it from a physical lens. You become so much more powerful, you become so much more effective. And step number 4 is so significant, and so many people miss this. And I used to just be guilty of this just on a great level. And in all the honesty, right, there's still times today where I find myself caught up in this, but I remind myself as much as possible to remember, okay, cool, Israel, don't fall into this trap. And that is not being afraid to allow work to carry over to the next day. So for example, let's say, for example, right, Today, for example, I'm creating content, right? I'm creating content which will be published out and be a blessing to you as you're watching this, etc. at some point in the future. Right, let's say, for example, I don't finish all the videos I desire to record today, or write all the emails, or whatever it is I'm doing today, I'm creating. That's okay. I don't necessarily turn around and say, okay, cool, I'm now going to be working round the clock. I'm not going to go to sleep. I'm not going to spend time with my family, etc. No, don't be afraid to let stuff go to the next day. And this is what I was talking about earlier when I was saying, you know what, God is so powerful because he didn't need to rest. But so many people don't realize this. When you read through Genesis chapter 1 and you read through the 6 days of creation, there's a couple of days when you read through it, like paying attention, more attention than most people do, where God doesn't say, most people think, you know what, every single day God creates and then he says it's good. He creates, it's good, creates, it's good. There's a couple of days where God doesn't say at the end of the day, it was good. He doesn't say it's good. Why? Well, the obvious answer to me is because he hadn't finished doing what he desired to complete. And God is leaving that principle in there for us to see, okay, cool. God can do work, and then the Bible can say it was good. And then another day, God can do work, and then not say it's good, and then continue doing work, and then say 2 times on that particular day, it was good. This is why people look at Tuesday, for example, and say it's a day of double blessing, because that's one of the days where God says it was good 2 times. On another day, he didn't say it was good, etc. So don't be afraid to let work continue to the next day. Continue to create. Creating is more significant. And this helps you answer the question that some of you obviously probably have when I was talking about earlier. But Israel, I'm struggling to create even on one day. How am I going to create across days? Well, this is how you do it, right? Let's say, for example, and it goes back to what I spoke about at the beginning. If you focus on the mission, each individual day isn't necessarily like the major thing. Right? God wanted to create the world, the heavens and the earth. He didn't do it all in one day. He could have if he wanted to, but he didn't. He said, I'm going to spread this out over 6 days, and I'm going to attach this 7th day on as a day of rest to showcase what a perfect week can look like if you work it. So God didn't say, well, on day 1, I was only able to say, let there be light. Like, no. God wasn't saying, okay, cool, because I didn't create the animals or I didn't create man, like the week was a failure. No, God broke it down into chunks, into steps, not because he was limited or couldn't do it faster, but because he's trying to show you how to do things, how to think about things. And this is how you can say, okay, cool, this is my mission for the week. My mission is to create a video on this particular piece of content, or my goal for the mission for the week is to create a video script, or my mission for the week is to write 5 emails, or my mission for the week is to sell my product finally, right? You now go on day 1, and I'm not even saying like you could do this, okay, this is what I'm going to do on day 1 and then day 2 and then day 3, whatever. Like you could do it that way, or you could say, okay, cool, this is the mission and I'm going to work on this mission today. If I work 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 hour, and then the next day, I'm going to keep working. And then the next day, I'm going to keep working. Whether it's a minute, 5 minutes, but 6 days in the week, you are working on the thing, on your mission for the week. And this is why it's so significant. It doesn't have to be hours and hours every single day. It can be 5 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 30 minutes, an hour, 4 minutes. That compounds, and that will get you closer to a week which is productive, profitable, and pleasurable. Now, the 5th thing is so significant, and so many people miss this, but this is so powerful. It's such a big leverage mover, which will help you on so many different levels. And we see this in the first week of creation in a powerful way. And this is where, like, let me give you an example. So I mentioned light over and over again, right, in this video. And one of the great lights the Bible says that God created was the sun. And he also created the lesser light, which is the moon. Now, every day since that particular day, other than what we call the long day from Joshua, where God stopped the sun for a moment or for a season, right, for some time, the sun has gone up and come down, gone up and come down, and the moon has gone up and come down and gone up and come down, right? That's what we call a system. A system is different to just a piece of work. You can work one day and that's just work. It's done. But when you create a system, it continues to work even after you've done the thing. And this is what's so significant about a perfect week. Every week that you're working, you should be looking to use and create systems, and these systems should stretch out what you've done on that particular day or week long into the future. For example, creating and selling a digital product is a system. I created a few months ago a product called Cash Flow for Christians. It's where I show any Christian how to turn their hobbies, their skills, or their expertise into a digital product that can pay them in the next 7 days or less. It's a system. I created it once and people continue to pay for it day after day after day. Right? It's a system. Just like God created the sun and said, okay, cool, every single day come up and then go down. Just as God created the moon, every single day come up and go down. Just as God created the land to produce fruit when seeds are put into the ground, every time it happens, it's a system. We create systems. This video that I'm creating right now is going to be a blessing to you today, but it's going to be a blessing to somebody else tomorrow and to somebody else the day after that. It will continue to be the same blessing in different ways to different people for as long as it's online. That is a system. The more systems you create, the more money that you will make. And in order for you to understand how powerful systems actually are, watch this video right here next, because it shows you how a system can get you 6 times the results in the same amount of time. Go in and God bless, winner.